lessons from the box truck industry. I'm your host, Telly Arnold, and today our guest, John, will break down double brokering, no fluff, no gatekeeping, just the real. And also on the show with me will be my co host, Sharif, my business partner, and then
How you
Derek,
doing?
the owner of Fastlane Trucking, and Shanique, the owner of Neek Dispatching. So, John, I have a few questions for you. Of course, anybody can jump in at any time. So, the first question that I want to ask is for anyone new to this topic, what exactly is double brokering and why is it such a big problem in trucking right now?
Well, that's a really interesting question because if you look at the regulations, there is actually no legal definition of double brokering or illegal brokerage that exists. So the best answer is double brokering is when a scammer will reach out to a broker to book a load representing themselves as a carrier, and then they turn around and put on a broker hat and sell the load yet to the real motor carrier. But that breaks down into so many different scams that happen in between that. The question is, are they skimming off the top and taking $500-600 that they would that should go to the motor carrier, or are they not paying at all and stealing the entire freight bill, or are they giving the motor carrier a fake BOL and having them take the cargo to someplace else, effectively stealing the cargo? So pretty much all freight fraud, I would say 90% of freight fraud originates with the double broker scam. So once the bad guy gets control of the cargo, that's when it all goes sideways.
So, double brokering is not when, because somebody told me double brokering is when you let somebody lease on and they're not on your insurance policy and then you give them a load. That's what somebody told me double brokering was.
No, I mean that's more accurately described as illegal brokerage, because it qualifies. It's a
Okay.
form of double brokering. At the
Gotcha.
end of the day, the principle's still the same. You as the motor carrier, you got the load, and then you're handing it off to another motor carrier, which you're not allowed to do. You're essentially
Mm.
brokering it to that motor carrier. So that's when it becomes illegal brokerage. So your particular example is one of the more modern examples of double brokerage that exists today. You lease on to somebody, you have your own authority, but then you lease on to somebody. You shouldn't have to do that anyway. If you lease on to a motor carrier, you're using their authority. Um, and then if they go and they hand the load to you and you're running it under your authority and not under the parent company's authority, then yeah, it turns into double brokering. There's a lot of blurry lines that exist
Gotcha.
in this whole mess, but it all boils down to whether or not you're following the lease on regulation, which is 49 CFR 376.12, which a lot of people completely ignore when they say, I'm going to lease on. For example, what a lot of people don't do is they don't put the right signage on the side of the truck. If you
Mm.
lease your truck onto a motor carrier, even though you're driving it, you can have your own little company name on the side of it. That's your brand. That's you. Your pride and joy. That's cool. But you can't have your DOT number on there. Only one DOT
Oh,
number goes on the truck, and that is the DOT number of whoever is in control of that truck, which is the motor carrier.
gotcha. And how did you earn the name Double Broker Bounty Hunter? And what made you decide to go after these situations head on?
I think I've been in every single one of your shoes at one point or another since 2019. In 2019, I started my own box truck company, and I was doing final mile delivery, SDs. Back then it was XPO, now it's RXO. And then I decided to go over the road with it, and that worked out okay post COVID. But at the end of the day, COVID killed me. I made a few bad business decisions. I won't belabor the bad business decision point. I'm sure you go on this show enough about what's a good and bad decision for running a box truck
Mm.
company. But when I got out of running box trucks, I got into dispatching because I owed my dispatch. I had a fleet of like 10 trucks. Five of them were over the road. I owed my dispatcher like 3 grand. So I went to my dispatcher and I said, hey, look, I have to close my company. Can I work for you and work it off? And she's like, okay, cool, yeah. So I started dispatching, and it was something I could jump into immediately, and I already knew the business inside and out, so that was cool. And when I jumped into dispatching, she sold off the company. I started my own, and I had about 6 different trucks I was dispatching for. And this was 2021. But I started noticing certain patterns. There were a couple of brokers out there that were always skimming off the top, and that's when double brokering was first getting fashionable. So I would look at these brokers. My carriers would do a pickup. I'd look at the BOLs, and maybe the BOL does not match. I mean, I booked with Jacksonville Freight Solutions. Why does it say Suntech? That doesn't make sense. So I picked up the phone and I called Suntech. I was like, well, what's going on with this? And they're like, wait a minute, you have our load? I said, yeah. I was like, I didn't book it with you, but I have it. Huh. And that's when I started learning about double brokering. And this broker was angry as anything. He said, okay, look, I originally paid $1,900 for this load, and how much were you promised? I said, we're getting paid $1,400. Okay, I'll pay you the whole $1,900. We're cutting the other guy out of the game. Okay, sure, it's no problem. My guy made an extra $500. I'm like, okay, win. So what I started doing is I started identifying all the different brokers that were doing it. Jacksonville Freight Solutions, AGD Logistics, there were Motor Transport, there were a few others. And these were legitimate brokerages, have legitimate loads sitting out there on the boards, but what they're doing is they're using a fake trucking company to book loads from other brokers and then turning around, reposting that on the boards as their own brokerage. And they're skimming 20% or so off the top while they do it. I got tired of that. And I figured out the only way that we can stop these guys from doing crap like that is to hit them where it hurts, in their wallet. So I started intentionally booking their loads, knowing that I could grab the BOL, figure out who the real broker is, call the real broker, and get the extra $500-600 a load. 2021, those 6 trucks made an additional $120,000 combined.
Wow.
In the first 12 months. So from that, my carriers, they called that extra money the bounty. As their dispatcher, I was the bounty hunter. And therefore, I became the double broker bounty hunter. And I've been running with that name ever since. So
nice. That's cool.
It was a gimmick at first, and now it is it's a gimmick that turned into a passion, and now a life mission.
Yeah, and now you're doing consultation, so it's really legit in my opinion. Because once you turn your business to where you're consulting, yeah. Go ahead, Sharif.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, were you able to confront that other broker that originally, so-called hired you on the stolen load?
Well, it wasn't a stolen load. Back then, it was just double brokering. There wasn't there was cargo theft going on. I didn't. None of my carriers were embroiled in that. But did I try to confront them? Sure. And they're like, "Don't you dare ever call our customer, and we're going to throw a freight guard against you," and all that other fun stuff that they like to try to accuse you of and scare you. And that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to scare you because at the end of the day, they can't do anything because they're doing something illegal themselves. So once I kind of figured that out, I was like, you guys are a freaking joke. And all you're doing is stealing my money. And I'm sorry. That's my money. You can fuck with me every which way from Tuesday. Don't fuck with my money. I mean,
exactly.
That's just all there is to it.
All right.
Right.
I actually recorded one of those conversations once a long time ago. And I wish I still had the recording. I'd play it for you. But if you go onto my website, vigilanttransport.com, there's a couple of texts that I got screenshots of. And in there, it kind of shows that you're actually doing something right. I mean, some of the nastiest language in the world, once they realized that I'm onto them and that I was cutting them out. Oh, yeah. I've been called everything under the sun. And
Gotcha.
It feels good. I'd love to see these guys actually try to pull up in front of my house to do something to me. I'd really like to say that I'm a veteran. Okay, I've got my wife's got a 38 special in the other room. I'll have 2 to the head and 1 to the chest by the top before they get out of their car. So,
Thank you.
Great guys. Unless you're Russian Spetsnaz, I really don't care. You're not going to scare me.
Damn right.
So, what are the biggest red flags carriers should watch before accepting a load?
Well, Jesus. Okay. Let's start with those of you who book loads off the load board. Most of you have to use the load board. I get it. It's a necessary evil, but it is also the petri dish of all fraud. Sorry, it's the truth. And there's really nothing the load boards can do about it. So before you sit there and blame the load boards, no. But what you need to do is you need to watch the postings themselves. If you're on, say, DAT, box trucks, I think the best load board for box trucks is DAT. If you're crazy enough to buy Selectus, you're wasting your money. Okay. Anywho, if you're going to do box trucks, do DAT, and on DAT, you'll sometimes see posts that are above the market rate. Pay attention to that market rate that they list on there. Okay, it's there for a reason. Yeah, it may not be entirely realistic. It may be a little on the low side because they're very selective about what companies are feeding that information into that rate. But if you see that the rate that they're posting is double the normal rate for that lane, there's a problem. You better be asking questions. I use a 20% rule. If the posted rate is 20% above market, I'm asking a ton of questions. As a dispatcher, I'm asking, okay, is it like white glove service, inside delivery, multiple stops? What's the catch? That's what I want to know. Justify the high rate to me. I want the rate. Don't get me wrong. I want the money. I like money. I want more of it. But seriously, though, don't be suckered in by that big price tag. Know what you're getting into. If there's no real reason to justify the rate, it's a scam. Another thing to look for is in the comment section. In the comment section, if they say email only and throw this email address in there, that's a red flag, especially if that email address doesn't jive with the broker. Okay, so if you're doing, and I never see this with TQL, so I'm going to use TQL as an example. Okay, TQL.com is the TQL email address. We all know that. We've all seen it. We all hate them for it, but that's okay. Can you tell I don't like TQL?
I see.
But a scammer will sit there and say, okay, email me at joebobstrucking@gmail.com. Oh, wait a minute. Joe Bob's Trucking is not a TQL email address. That can't
Right.
be. You know, those little things, those little details are going to tell you that you're dealing with a possible scam. And if you're still like, okay, I'm going to try it anyway, let's see, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is you never get paid, but that's neither here nor there. You go and you book the load. Now look at your rate confirmation. Does anything look fishy to you? Does it look like there's different types of font across it? Like somebody threw it into Adobe and started changing stuff, because that happens all the time. Pick up the phone and call, let's say it says TQL at the top. Pick up the phone, call TQL. Hey, TQL, I got this BOL number, this order number here. Is this a real order number? And can you verify for me the lane and the amount the payout's supposed to be? They'll get you the information, and then you can verify it. Okay? Verification is so important. You know, brokers are going to hound you guys, especially in the non-CDL world. They're going to hound you for all different kinds of verification that they possibly can. You need to be hounding them as well. You are verifying them just as much as they verify you. Especially when not only do you have evil double brokers out there who are trying to scam you, but you also got brokers who are going broke. You know, and I mean, look at R&R, the whole R&R controversy. Have you heard about this one yet?
No.
I don't think so. I haven't.
For those who don't know, R&R Express has like 4 or 5 different brokerages under their umbrella. And about 3 months ago, they got downgraded by most of the factoring companies because they were getting later and later in paying their bills. Well, if you're seeing that pattern, the writing is on the wall. The brokerage is struggling financially. Okay? Well, R&R is folding. They're closing their doors. They've pretty much already told all their people that, you know, they thought they had a buyout offer that would save the company. It didn't go through, so they're failing. They're about to go under. So if you book a load with R&R now, you're probably not going to get paid. And then
Mm.
you're going to be stuck with a couple million other dollars in payables on your load against a $75,000 bond. Okay,
Mm.
and this may not be double brokering, but it's another scam that's out there and affecting carriers today. When a broker goes under, they've only got that bond to worry about. They may have $1 million in their hands from the loads that they've moved for their customers, but they turn around and they run away with that money. There you only have that $75,000 bond. If there's $1 million in outstanding payables against that $75,000 bond, you're looking at 7 cents on the dollar is how much you will collect when you file on that bond. 7 cents to the dollar.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, we still check credit. I mean, when before we book a load, we're checking their credit with our factoring company. Like that's something that we really check, especially in this environment where everybody's struggling, even the brokers.
And he said
Anybody
the
else have
Mm-hmm.
number
any
one
other
thing.
questions or comments?
He said the number one thing when that price too good to be true. If I get excited too fast, I like, hold on, calm down. Let me check.
You
Like
Especially.
my
have
first,
to.
oh, go.
No, go ahead,
It's
Derek.
like
Go
my,
ahead. Dick.
okay, like my month and a half into the trucking. I got a double broker load. I was in Joliet, Illinois, uh, and I found a load on the DAT. My driver was like 30 minutes away from it. Load was paying like 2,100 going to North Carolina, and it didn't have to be delivered till Monday. So I'm excited. Great. I'm just like, oh man, good end of the week payout. Got the
Mm.
BOL, and luckily I had been hip to as far as what to look out for. And like you said, dude had a Gmail account. And I'm like, I've never seen a brokerage with a Gmail account. So my driver got to the location. It was a trailer. It was supposed to be on a flatbed, but it could fit in a box truck. Got it loaded up. I told my driver, I was like, as soon as you get the BOL, ask the where you pick it up from, ask the guy what's the phone number to the original shipper. I got the phone number, called him, and said, hey, got this load on the truck, just like you said, verified it and everything. Gave him the order number. I said, and verify the payout. The dude was gonna pay me 2,100, but he had paid him out 19, which was still a good price for where I was going. Yeah, called and verified. I told him, I said, hey, I got him on the back of my truck. I say, I know look like somebody trying to scam me. I say, you either want me to drop it off and leave it here, or do you want me to deliver it? And like I said, I only had a month and a half authority, so I couldn't even carry for this company. But the guy onboarded me and everything, told me appreciated me, called me. He was pissed. He was pissed, and the guy who booked it with me was just blowing my phone up, trying to see where you at, where you at, what you doing, where you at, and I wouldn't answer, and my driver wouldn't answer anything. And then once we got everything, once I got the new BOL and my driver got loaded, I called the dude back and the original guy back. And I was like, man, you tried to scam me. I said, but I got it squared away. I said, I got the load. And like I said, he was cussing me out and telling me he was gonna
Damn
put a
right.
freight guard on. I was like, man, I don't care. Yeah, that's exactly how it was. So you 100% right. Like you gotta pay attention because like I said, it was $2,100. I'm a month and a half in. I can't carry for but like three people, and this dude's just automatically was like, yeah, you can do it. And like I said, it was a flatbed load. It was not supposed to go on a box truck, but it fit. The dimensions and everything fit, and we got it there. Got that 1,900, and I was happy. And I got like maybe three or four more like that. Like I said, as soon as I get it, I just find out who the actual the original shipper was, call them and say, hey, I got your load. Somebody tried to scam me. Like I said, I pretty much get the rate, the same, the actual rate that they wanted. Yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
look out for those emails.
as long as you're paying attention to what's going on, you can avoid getting scammed in the process.
Hmm.
The real shame that we're seeing these days is someone goes through a situation like you went through, Derek, okay, and you don't call, but they tell you, oh, it's a blind BOL. So the guy who's scamming you sends you a different BOL too. And now you're not taking it to North Carolina anymore. You're taking it to You're taking it to Indianapolis, and you think, oh man, $2,000, and I'm just going 200 miles. Hell yeah, I got this all day long. You think you're great. You go take it to this warehouse. It turns out to be a transload site. You don't care. I got a rate confirmation in hand. I got a BOL here. Life is great. And now you're guilty of stealing a cargo. Congratulations.
Mm.
Now, we see this happen all the time. And we know in most cases that the motor carrier is not to blame. The motor carrier got duped just as much as the real broker got duped. Actually, the real broker is the one who is in the real hot water because they hired a bad entity to actually haul the load. And that's actually a big debate between carriers and brokers right now. And it's a very us versus them mentality these days. But it really doesn't have to be. But in the Supreme Court right now, there's a case that's being heard in 2 months that's going to really redefine the liability that brokers have if they hire a bad carrier to haul a load. It's going to open them up to a great deal of liability, and we're seeing now that Congress has several bills on the floor trying to get ahead of that situation. So freight brokers are going to assume more accountability in trying to identify good carriers along the way. But it's not that easy. Most brokers don't realize what a bad carrier is. And I'm learning that very quickly through my consulting gig. So it's kind of interesting how this is playing out.
What do you think is falling through the loops that brokers are like just missing out on? Like, hey, these are like, are they not going through all their checks and balances? Is it because they're trying to book loads so fast? They're just being careless. Like, how are they just letting this slip by like that? Like, hey, this is not a legit person.
You hit the nail exactly on the head, Derek. Speed. We live in an environment where everything has to be now, 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 now. Okay, especially in box trucks. Okay, we do mostly expedited stuff. Almost everything we do is expedited. So it's got to go. It's got to go now. And at the moment, all the broker needs is somebody to actually move the load. So they may skip a step here or there as part of their verification process. I'm working with a brokerage right now. Their verification process to onboard a carrier is 3 days long. Okay, so no one moves very fast in that place. But I was thinking, oh, great, well, then they're real thorough about what they do. And I'm finding out, no, they're not. But that's neither here nor there. I will fix that for them. But they're not being thorough enough. They want to go ahead and get it done. Having been a broker, I spent 2 years as an agent with CRST. I understand the allure. You have 40 loads you need to move. You got an 8-hour period to move it in. The first halfway acceptable carrier you have, you're putting it on their truck because you got to move freight. So you have a lot of guys who just want to just get the dang job done, get your commission, and go on your merry way. What they don't realize is 3 days later, you find out the load got stolen, the load got double brokered, you got to pay for it twice, or whatever the issue is for a broker. And until a broker gets burned, they are not going to learn.
Gotcha.
And in most cases, most box truck drivers, they're not going to learn until they burn. And I hate saying that, but I mean, no one stops to look for what we at the Freight Fraud Task Force do until they become a victim.
You just figure. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. I just with highway and RMIS and with all the credentials that you figure they have to verify. You just figure that it wouldn't be so easy for them, that stuff to just slip through the cracks. And the way they're so quick to check your authority and make sure you got enough months to carry something, they'll verify that quick, but you won't verify if this is a real person that you're actually giving your load to. Is crazy.
Well, when you see brokers like that, they clearly have not become a victim of the sold MC scam. Okay, so you have box truck guys, or really any motor carrier goes under, and they can't pay their insurance. About 30 days out from them being shut down by DOT, they get that big red flag on Safer saying pending insurance pending cancellation or something like that. If they look in Safer, so what the scammers do is they look for that tag. Okay, if they see that tag show up on your authority, your phone is going to blow up. And they're going to sit there and they're going to start offering you money,
Mm-hmm.
real money, to sell, quote unquote, sell your MC to them. Okay, especially if you have an Amazon Relay account and all this other stuff. They're going to want not just your company, your MC number, but they're going to want your email address. They're going to want your phone number. They're going to want your credentials for your Amazon account. They're going to want everything. Okay, they're going to pay you like 50% up front, and then they're going to say, we'll pay you the other 50% when you send us all the stuff and we verify the information. And then they tell you, we'll deal with FMCSA. We'll make all the changes for you. We'll update the registration with FMCSA for you. No problems. Well, you think, oh, crap, man, 30, 40 grand to walk away and have a couple months to figure out what I'm going to do next for the next chapter of my life? Hell yeah, let's do it. So you go ahead and sell your MC.
So when they
Now the
sell their
scammers,
MC, are they selling the business too? Because I had this whole conversation in a group. Like, can you sell your MC? What is the legal
yes.
way you have to sell it with your, like, if I was to sell my business or MC, I would have to sell the whole LLC with it, correct?
The whole thing, all the liabilities and all of the assets must be part of the sale. There needs to be contracts drawn up on it. It has to be transferred at the Secretary of State. It has to be transferred at FMCSA. All of those transfers have to take place in order for it to be quote unquote legal. Let's face it, there are acquisitions and mergers all the time among motor carriers and whatnot, and that's perfectly legal. I mean, do you know how many MC numbers Landstar has? They're like
Yeah.
6.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, they're
Yes.
consolidating everything. They're consolidating everything, but they have 6 of them, and they're all legal. Okay. So I mean, it is legal to do so. The problem is that these guys, they don't go to the Secretary of State to change anything. They don't go to the FMCSA to change anything. So the original owner is still on the hook legally for all the stuff these guys are going to do. So what they do is they they buy the MC from you, and they sit on it. And they sit on it till they need it. And then they'll go ahead and they'll use your MC to start booking loads, stealing freight, doing whatever. And that could be 6 months, 12 months down the line. So a good broker is going to be paying attention to, has this carrier had any activity, any measurable activity? And there are several sources that can show that between gen logs, highway, and a couple others. They can actually see if you've actually had trucks in motion. And if you haven't had any trucks in motion, odds are that was a MC number that was bought and sold, and the scammer's just now getting around to using it to pull off whatever scam's going to do. So a smart broker, is going to be utilizing all the tools they have to really dig into these carriers and figure out what's going on. Because even your trusted carriers, freight brokers, they may use the same carrier every day for a specific lane. And then what they don't know is that motor carrier has got a scammer who hacked their email address and is just sitting in your inbox and reading all your emails. Okay, and they see that your business is winding down with them. That's okay. But they see this one load come across with that freight broker. And so they, as impersonating you as the motor carrier, go in and they book that load. Okay, perhaps you've been moving tires nonstop for Kelly Tires or Firestone or whatever, and you've been doing tons and tons of loads for them. Okay, maybe 100 loads over the course of a month. But that last load, as you wind it down, it wasn't you booking that, it was a scammer booking that, and you never knew they booked it. Well, if a broker is too complacent, they're not bothering to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Joe, did you actually just go and book this load?" No, I didn't. Oops. No, instead, they just send over the rate confirmation because the guy's in your email. He sees the rate confirmation. He grabs the rate confirmation, sends his truck over to go get it, and the broker turns around and blames you. I see this stuff all the time. And what a lot of people don't do, carriers, you're not protecting your email addresses. Use multi-factor authentication. Even if you have Gmail or Yahoo, they all have their own multi-factor authentication process. Use multi-factor authentication. It is the best way to protect your email. And brokers don't just say, well, I've been booked 80 loads with the same email address in the last month, so clearly it's good. Don't assume it. You cannot assume that. Not today.
Right.
Pick up the phone every single load. Call. Hey, Joe, did you book this load? Yeah, I got it, Tom. Okay, great, cool, thanks. You know, because one of these days they're going to come back and say, no, I didn't book that. What the hell are you talking about?
And that's the thing when
And
we
then
book,
somebody needs to start
they're
paying.
always like they'll talk to Sharif on the phone, like especially TQL. You're not they're dispatching it out, and then they'll talk to him on the phone. They used to always call me on the phone to ask did we book a load, but that's when I had a dispatcher. When we
Mm-hmm.
removed the dispatcher and it's just been me and him, we don't get that because they always call and dispatch him out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
And credit to TQL here. They actually do check. They
yeah,
actually
they
do check.
do.
Hey, I've been doing this for 4 years
Mm.
in the fraud landscape, and I've never once caught TQL double brokering or having one of their loads double brokered. So props to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think with a lot of these brokerages starting to transition to AI, do you think that's one of the main reasons to stop the double brokering?
No, I don't think AI does anything to stop that. The only thing AI does, and Nick, you can probably verify this. When I pick up the phone and I go to call a broker, I can tell when an AI is answering, and I can
Yeah.
tell because the first thing they ask you is for an MC number if they ask. Okay, you have some brokerages out there. Thinking of Yellow Diamond Freight, they don't bother asking that. Hold on,
Yellow Diamond is like
sorry about that. Allergies.
wants you to do
Yeah,
so
Um,
much.
they,
yeah, they
they,
do
they
too
don't
much.
even ask for your MC. They just sit there and tell you, hey, the phone number you're calling is not an approved, isn't associated with a good carrier. Thank you. Click. You can't even talk to anybody.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, I know Yellow Diamond uses one that's like that. There's a few others. I don't remember who they are. Um, but most of them who are using an AI when they answer the phone, they ask you for their MC number, or they ask you, "Are you carrier so and so?" And if you're a dispatcher, say no. Okay, well, what's your MC? And then you can go ahead and start the conversation about the load and whatnot. If it's something that's somewhat agreeable, then they transfer you to a real human being to actually
Mhm.
work out the deal. I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. I've gotten used to that. I got comfortable with that. But if you ever ask a broker, do they like an AI dispatcher calling
They
in to
don't.
book loads and negotiate deals? They'll freight guard them in half a heartbeat. Okay, but I can't blame them. I can't blame them. I was at the Mid Atlantic Truck Show last year, Matt's in Louisville, and there were 3 booths there for people who are advertising AI dispatchers. Meet your AI dispatcher, Jack. And what terrifies the heck out of me about something like that is that Jack has got an American voice, a mid-Atlantic accent. Could be from New Jersey, could be from Philly or whatever. And you don't know that it's not a real human being. So when most of the scammers that are out there, and we all know most of the scammers are coming out of Eastern Europe, you can tell the accent when you pick up the phone. And that's a lot what brokers are listening for. Well, now the broker hears this American accent named Jack, and yeah, they don't know it's a scammer on the other end. So that can easily sucker a lot of these brokers if the
Mm.
credentials are good, and if the credentials line up and meets their qualifications for the brokerage or whatever. AI can be a big problem.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Uh,
Ju-
I've had somebody
ju-
ask me to test it out, and I'm not ready to. I'm not ready to do that. I'm afraid
I
of
would
it.
like that. I would like to
I've
ask,
heard I
do you feel like the rates would change from being more pro carrier this year than the broker being the brokers industry right now? Or as
I would
far
not
as the
say
rates?
that we've been living in a broker's market. I would say we're living in a shipper's market. I don't believe that the
Okay.
brokers are making insane amounts of money, as a lot of people like to paint. There are some brokers out there that are making serious bank, But they also know what they're doing. They know how they're doing it. And in most cases, they're not screwing over carriers in the process. Then you get the occasional TQL one where they're making 40% margins and stuff like that. And yet another reason why I don't like TQL. But most brokers are lucky if they're getting a 10% margin in most cases. And that's reasonable to me. 10 to 20%, I think, is reasonable for a broker because they assume a great deal of risk. There's a lot that's involved in having to be a broker, the track and trace and all that stuff. That's not a cost that's on the motor carrier. That cost is on the broker. So they've got to deal with that. So I get the 20%. The 40%, nah, now you're robbing carriers.
Right.
But that's just me. Now, to answer your question, do I think the market is going to come back around this year? I do. And everything in this business is cyclical, and post-COVID, whatever drives the cycle has been altered by politics and other BS that has prevented the market from turning back into what you're pointing out to be a carrier's market where the rates are going to go up. We have experienced 3 full years of constant downward pressure on rates. People calling it a freight recession. No, guys, no. It's a freight recession for like 2 quarters. After that, it's a depression. It's a freight depression. Let's get it right.
Depression. Yes.
So this freight depression has been going on for the last 3 years. And normally, every year, it's going to go up or it's going to go down. So it's up year and down year. It's typically how it runs. We haven't had an up year since 2021. This is insane. This has been crazy. Tariffs were a big part of that to stymie that growth. We thought that everything was turning back in Q4 of last year. And when President Trump was reelected, everyone knew tariffs were about to hit. So as soon as the tariffs came in, rates plummeted again.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast. Outside factors have been impacting the rates. I do think, however, that probably this spring, this summer, probably by the start of Q3, we're going to see rates finally come back up. We started to see it in December. Rates came up about 10-15% throughout the month of December, which is unusual because usually in December, rates are on a steady downward trend as you approach the holidays. It actually spiked approaching the holidays, which is very unusual. So I do think we're going to see it flip. The question is how much is it going to flip and how hard is it going to flip?
I do have a sorry.
It'll last about a year and a half when it does flip. The problem is that the shippers are not ready for it. The shippers think that they are going to have this kind of market forever because the guys who are in these logistics manager jobs at these shippers, all they've known is post-COVID. All they know is rates keep going down and down and down and down and down. So they're going to expect rates to keep going down and down and down and down. So when freight brokers start coming to them and asking for another, 30, 40, 50% on the rates, they're going to say, no, we're going to go with somebody else. We're going to go with somebody else. Well, there's not going to be anybody else. At some point, the shippers are going to see that sticker shock and then they have to deal with it. So it's going to hit. The question is when. Like I said, if I'm looking at the crystal ball, I think it's the start of Q3, sometime this summer.
Okay.
I could hug you for that.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I do notice that the fuel prices. What do you think about them? You think they have been lowered?
I think the fuel prices have been artificially depressed by the government. I think in order to try to meet campaign promises, they've been tapping into the Federal Reserve, and you look and see what's happening in Venezuela now. They're trying to move their oil reserves to us. So I think the price of diesel is going to stay fairly stable for the next probably year or so. So, I'll take the good with the bad. Okay, yeah. We got some tariffs that are holding down rates, but and now we're going to see a glut of oil out there, which should keep diesel prices down a little bit. My problem's not the diesel prices. When I'm looking at the trucking industry, and I'm looking at the pain that truckers are going through, diesel's not the issue in my eyes, at least not right now. It's insurance.
It's insurance.
Mm.
Lord have
Absolutely.
mercy.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
I've seen just the carriers I used to dispatch for, because I would dispatch these guys for years. I've been dispatching for them for so long. They've been good friends. And I have seen their rates in the last year go up 25+%, and they didn't have a claim.
Yeah.
I mean, that's massive, especially when you're already operating on a shoestring budget. You barely can rub two nickels together every day, and now your insurance is going to go up 25%. How the hell do we cope?
Yeah.
But that again opens the door to more fraud, and I hear a lot of people explain this as innocent fraud. You hear a lot of carriers go on about their sister companies. Oh, my sister company's got it. Okay, that's code for I'm double brokering it,
Yeah.
and I know I'm doing it. But they don't have insurance, so I'm going to run it on them because they can do it for a lot cheaper, and I'll still get my cut.
Right.
So you have a lot of drivers out there running around with no insurance,
Boy.
which is why they can offer such cheap rates and keep this market depressed the way it is. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but insurance, it to me is one of the biggest problems in the industry, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of carriers are failing right now, because the insurance is just too damn high and the rates are too damn depressed. So the guys who were really excelling, I would love to get a look at their books, because I'm willing to bet they either have fake insurance or they have no insurance, and that's the only way they're surviving.
And you said it.
It's
They booking loads
I'm just calling it the way I
without
see
any
it.
insurance. Like, I mean, when we first started, our insurance was $2,500 a month, and then we got it down to 1,100,
7.
and then it jumped up to 4,500, and then I had to go search for another insurance company, and now it's at 1,400 for one truck. Yeah. And
That's
Texas, for
actually
what
pretty
I
damn good.
hear, yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
nowadays that's
For
exactly
Texas,
it.
that's real good. I mean, because we started out at 2,500, but at the time we didn't have a truck note either. So, that makes a difference. Do you
It's
think, go ahead, Derek.
I think it's really the reason why a lot of these owner operators are having issues with scaling. Even if you happen to get a decent rate your first year with one truck, and you just say you're getting around 12 to 1,400. If you try to scale up to a second truck, they're trying to charge you 3,500 or 3,000. Like they're trying to shoot it up so much to where it's like, instead of just thinking like, hey, just go up from 1,400 to maybe 2,000 or 20, like
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and it's like it's making it almost impossible to
to
scale for
scale.
somebody. Yeah,
Yeah, I have a
I'm
truck
not an
right now
insurance
that's
expert,
sitting.
but
We have a truck right now that's sitting. Like he said, we could rent his truck out, but to add it to our policy is $3,500. That's the only reason we
yeah,
ain't put it on the road.
And also, you got to have
I
somebody that's
remember
going to hit.
when I had my fleet.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
When I had my fleet, scaling was an issue for me as well. I started off with 3 trucks. I leased them all, and I was paying upwards of about $2,000 a month per truck on insurance. What I started to find out is once I got past the 6, 7 truck mark, because I had up to 10. Once I get past the 6 or 7 truck mark, then my rates actually started going down as I added trucks.
Mm.
I don't know if that was because it added more legitimacy. I don't know the whole formula, but I know once you scale to a certain point, then you finally hit a cap, and your rates start to balance out and level back down. Now, it does also help that if your drivers are of good caliber, they're over the age of 25, no accidents, certainly no accidents in a commercial vehicle, something along those lines. That helps a lot. I mean, I remember I had a minor accident with my box truck. I rear-ended a guy at a light. The whole line surged forward. I surged with it. Didn't hit my brakes fast enough and kissed the back bumper. And that was brutal for me. here I am. I'm the owner of a motor carrier company. I have now an accident, an at-fault accident on my record. Man, my insurance. Oh man, I paid for that one. I paid for that one dearly. You
The
really got to pay
legit
What?
attention to what you're doing.
the
Stupid
legitimacy
mistakes will get you.
the legitimacy should be that I've driven this truck for a year. I haven't had a wreck or anything. Lower my damn insurance. That
Yeah.
should be the legitimacy.
Well, I can't speak to the insurance industry, but I do know it doesn't work that way. I wish it
And
did.
No,
That
no,
right?
The
No,
we're
absolutely
problem
not.
is
living
that
it.
that would be
you
fair.
have tons of people filing claims. Mhm.
Yeah.
There are tons of people filing fictitious claims for all sorts of kinds of things, and that's why we're paying bigger rates on all of our insurance, even though we may not have had an accident. People doing all this stupid crap. You got some of these four wheelers sitting there brake checking trucks. I mean, here's your damn sign. You want to talk about a Darwin Award nominee? Go brake check a 80,000 pound semi. Go for it, buddy. But it happens all the damn time, and they're expecting to be able to scam out a carrier for a big payout. All I can say for a box truck guy, yeah, you're not 80,000 pounds, but you are 26,000. Oh, you'll still kill somebody
Yeah.
Some
if you don't
damage.
have a camera on the front of your truck. If you don't have a camera out the front of your truck, you are just begging to be made an example of.
Killing
Okay,
yourself.
so
Yeah, we got
oh yeah,
motive.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got motive.
Whoever your
So
ELD provider is, get a camera with them.
yeah, we got
Absolutely.
we got the motive, so it's worth every penny. Do you
Oh yeah,
think
no, motive is definitely one of the best.
yeah, do you think box truck carriers are more vulnerable to double brokering versus class A carriers? Or it doesn't matter?
At certain times, I would say yes, only because of I would say because they're naive. In many cases, a lot of guys getting into the box truck world are getting there because somebody told them, hey, you can make a good living driving a box truck or owning a box truck company. And that's how most of us get into this business. I was told that same story back in 2019. Okay. And if I did things differently, yeah, I might still be doing it. But yeah, no. If you don't know what you're getting into, you don't do all your research and your homework before you get into it, then you can easily become a victim. I'd say more than 50% of the new authorities that are generated every week, and there's about 600 new authorities every week. Of
Damn.
that, more than 50% of them are non-CDL, so they're box trucks or hot shots or sprinter vans,
Yeah.
and they probably have never been in the industry before, so they don't know any of the stuff even exists. You know, they think of this as a good old boys club, and everything's always been on the up and up. Everything's done off of handshakes,
Yeah.
and it's easy money. Oh my God, this is some of the hardest work you're ever going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many sleepless nights I had as a company owner, but I can tell you, after my company failed, I had plenty of sleepless nights after because I had to deal with the failure part.
Yeah.
When I had 10 trucks, When I
Yeah.
failed, I was $250,000 in debt.
Stop
Okay,
it.
and I settled those debts instead of declaring bankruptcy. I'm still paying on that stuff. I mean, geez.
I would have
Well,
ran straight
I should
to
have declared
what
bankruptcy.
judge
God dang, I
chapter?
should
What
have
am I?
declared bankruptcy.
Chapter 7, chapter 13. Which one am I claiming?
All of them, chapter
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Every chapter in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a
Did
huge
you?
mistake on my part. But you live, you learn.
Yeah.
But
I
whatever
have
you
an
do,
experience one time with a broker, and I was contemplating if I want to share, but I'm going to share. So this broker, we had a relationship between that we used to take loads from Virginia when I used to live in Virginia to Ohio, right? In our own company. We built this relationship. You always call, always call. Okay. Now one day, my company is no longer valid, and I'm a dispatch. So one day he called and he said, "Hey, I have this lane that's going picking up out of Missouri. It's it's a blind shipment. It's supposed to go to California, but it's really going to PA." Now I'm trusting him because I've had relationship with him, right? I'm
hmm
not thinking anything bad. So I said to him, "Where is the freight going? It's going to my warehouse." I said, "Okay." I've had situations where blind shipment do go to other warehouse. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens after? He said, "What we do, we take the freight and sell it." I said, "What?" What? I said, "Oh
Okay,
no."
That's
No,
stealing. He wasn't
that
even
could be
beating around the
legitimate.
bush on that.
That could
it
be
That
is.
could be
legitimate.
legitimate.
That's a pirate.
Wait a minute. He said that could be
That could be
legitimate.
legitimate. There are reconsignment companies. So if you have a bad cargo and you want to get rid of the cargo, then what they want to do is they don't want for whoever's going to buy the cargo to know where it originally came from. So that's one of the reasons why you have a blind shipment. Okay, so blind shipments can be valid, but what I want to know is why is it a blind shipment? I'll give you an example.
Mm.
Yeah.
I booked a blind shipment load from Chicago to what was it? Chicago to St. Louis. The it was steel. It was on a hot shot, and that steel was out of grade. It was not the right grade for for who was using it in Chicago. So they were going to return it back to the manufacturer. The manufacturer's in Georgia. So when we did the pickup, the BOL said it was going to Georgia. But that wasn't the lane I booked. I booked Chicago to St. Louis. So the broker explained to me, he's like, no, actually it's going to go to St. Louis because they can take the lower grade steel, and instead of taking it all the way back to Georgia and then shipping it from Georgia back out to St. Louis, we're just going to do it a direct route. And I was like, and the shipper's aware of this. Yeah, shipper's aware of this, but they can't have their name on the they have to have their name on the BOL, so it's not going to show the Illinois guy as the shipper. Okay,
Mm.
I can understand that. I've been in the metals business before. I understand that. That makes sense to me. So if it made sense to me, okay, I can take that blind. I can take that blind shipment. But I also sat there and I called the Georgia plant and I verified that information. And they're like, yeah, they were going to return it and we're authorizing it to go there. Great, thank you very much. That's all I need to know. So it was a valid shipment. If you understand why it's a blind shipment, cool. But one thing I always tell my drivers and what I always recommend to people, if you're going to do a blind shipment, keep the original BOL that you were given. So you can then take that and then verify information. Because
Gotcha.
if it's a scammer trying to steal the cargo, you want to know where that cargo really has to go.
He really was because he even offered to pay me to give him access to load boards. And I
Ooh.
said, why would a broker want to me as a dispatch? You have more access than I do to get into a
Mm-hmm.
load board. It was just strange. And I thought to myself, you really cannot trust people. Like, why would you want to pay me to give you access to a load board? And
Mm.
then,
You know,
I don't know.
your instinct is good, and I really must stress out: trust your instincts. If something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right. Ask questions, find help. Okay, and those of us here at the Freight Fraud Task Force, we can help you with that. We can help you determine, is this a valid load? Is it not a valid load? And what to do about it if it's not.
Mm.
But you got to ask the help. You got to ask for help. Otherwise, we don't know that you need it. Um, when you come across crazy situations like that, you're right. Brokers have tons of resources, and most motor carriers have no idea what brokers have access to. They've got so many resources, it's crazy. If they're asking you to do something crazy like that, no, dear God, no. You have no idea what the hell you're getting yourself into. Your instincts are good on that.
So we got a few minutes left, and to wrap up, I will have one last question for you. If you could
Hit
give
me.
carriers one rule to live by to avoid double brokers, what would it be?
Verify everything. If you're booking loads with a medium size or large broker, they've got a corporate office. Call the corporate office. Don't call the same guy you just booked a load with and say, "Are you real?" Call the corporate office. Give them the load number. Give them the lane. Is this a real load? I mean, it's pretty simple. Now, if you're dealing with a small broker, it's much harder to do that because you got a lot of small brokers that are one or two people. Um, in those situations, when I go to the pickup, I ask the shipper, "What freight brokerage are you working with for this?" Okay, if they can't answer that question, I don't know if I want to pick that up.
Mm.
I want to make sure that everyone knows who we're all working with, who we're all partnered with. And if the receiver's the one who arranged it, before I put that load in my truck, I'm calling the receiver. What freight broker are you working with? Because again, I'm not calling the same guy and say, "Hey, are you real?" That's just begging for problems.
And that
Verify everything
it's
because they're
funny you said
verifying
that,
you.
John,
You need to verify.
because lately people are coming in and like when I picked up early today, telling the Bill Layton
Mm-hmm.
said I can pick up in the morning, but I like to go early. Sometimes I show up. I'm always showing up early just to see what I can do. So I showed up early and to verify when I walked in, they TLA group. So the broker communicated with the shipper. They already knew who was coming. You know what I'm saying? So that it's funny we talking about this. That's happened the last two or three loads I picked up. They said the company at the window. You know, before I said it, I was like, oh
Gotcha.
Well, that's all well and good, but they need to have some kind of security on their end too. You
yeah,
know, they say your company name. Okay, hey, great. You feel comfortable because
hmm
somebody's been communicating with them, so you know you're at the right spot. How do they know you're the right guy? You'll sit there and
Right.
say, "Joe's Trucking? Yeah, I'm Joe's Trucking. Let me walk out to my truck and put a new sign on real quick." Um, you know, everyone needs to verify everyone. Brokers
got
need to be
to.
very smart about how they address things with shippers. Shippers should know who's coming to make a pickup. They should know the driver's name. They should know the driver's truck number. They should know all that stuff ahead of time. It should be on the BOL. That's another thing I
Right.
can't stand. I can't stand when a broker has their name listed as the carrier on the BOL. Brokers are not allowed to hold themselves out as carriers. Not on a
Gotcha.
BOL. It's actually illegal. But that's
Mm,
A whole
another
nother
argument for
that's
another day.
another subject.
I didn't know.
Verify everything. You got
Verify
to. There's
everything.
no other way.
Gotcha. Well, John, I thank you so much for joining. All of this will be uploaded to YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Actually, it'll be the whole thing will be on my actual profile, and you'll see little snippets pop up all throughout the week of the different things that we talked about today. And hopefully, you could come back again. And as soon as I launch Straight Connect, I am still working on launching it and getting people to join the pilot. I'm not having much luck, so but I'm still hopeful.
Tell
So
Well,
everybody how to get
I
in
think I've
contact
expressed
with
to you
you.
before that I was interested in that direct connect that you're building there. So
yeah, because
you've
you
got an
told me you was
interesting
gonna tell.
platform that you're trying to put together.
Yeah, you said you was gonna tell the FMCSA about it. Please do. So
I
I
really,
certainly
and
will.
and how can people reach out to you, John? If
Well,
somebody wants to
I'm out
contact
there
you.
on LinkedIn. John Cantera, you see my name on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty easy to find. I'm also with the Freight Fraud Task Force. That's a company page that I'm admin on over there. I also have my own company page on LinkedIn, Double Broker Bounty Hunter. Check it out. Subscribe. I also have my own show that I do. I do a daily 2-minute thing called the Task Force Minute. And I also have an hour-long podcast I do on Thursdays called the TikTok Diner. All of it exclusively devoted to freight fraud.
All righty. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you
Nice
everyone
meeting
for
you.
today. Next week we will have a Steve Best broker join next week. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you.
care, y'all.
All
Okay.
right.
Been a pleasure, guys. Good luck to y'all.
Thank you.